Okay, so I think everybody knows Partha Banerjee, and Partha wrote to me last night and asked if we could have an urgent conversation about what's happening in the escalating military tensions between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. And so, on short notice, I said, let's just do it. And tonight was the one that I could do it, so I thought let's just do it, sooner rather than later. So, thank you to everybody who has made the time available and signed up. So. Partha, I'll turn it over to you. And I think, if you speak for as long as you feel comfortable, and then we'll take questions and have discussion. I think
Yeah,
we have no fixed end time. I think we can just stay on as long as people feel there are things they'd like to discuss and we don't exhaust Partha too much. So,
all right.
okay.
So,
By the way, could everyone please mute themselves? And then I think when we get to the questions, if you raise your hand, use the raised hand function. If you can find it on your lower on the navigation bar down here. Or if not, send me a message in the chat saying you'd like to ask a question because I won't be able to see everybody. That would be the best. Okay, go ahead.
all right. So, good evening to everyone. I'm very, very happy and grateful that Brooklyn for Peace and Charlotte and other friends at this uh, well-known peace organization, they have given me this time on a very short notice to speak about the new military conflict that unfolded in India and Pakistan. And I just came back from there. I spend 3 or 4 months in India these days after taking an retirement from my labor union um, teaching position where I taught for 14 years. And then every time I go, I try to travel as much as possible across the country, mostly based in Calcutta, which is right next to Bangladesh. Uh, but then every opportunity I get, I travel across the country and be a part of basically the anti-fascist movement, so to speak. Um, what's happening in India, I'll tell you very briefly. I'm sure that you are following the media, um, but I have put up a map uh, because I thought, and Charlotte also asked me to do it, to basically give you an idea where these places are in South Asia. To Before I give you the events that unfolded in the past few weeks, a very scary and alarming um, set of developments. Let me just give you a little bit of history as far as the partition and where Kashmir is and things like that. I remember a few months ago, I don't remember the exact time, but Charlotte also gave me an opportunity to talk about the crisis that unfolded in Bangladesh. So this is like, an ongoing saga in South Asia, in the Indian subcontinent, and God knows when this will all come to an end, if ever, in our lifetime. Uh, so basically, make a long story short, I hope that you can follow the map. This is India. This is North India, which is very close to China on the north and northeast, sort of that area is China. Here is Tibet, which China annexed uh, like in the 50s or 60s. And then this is the Indian border. When the British left after 200 years of colonizing and destroying and looting the country, sucking it dry, they divided very arbitrarily and randomly India into three pieces. And this central part, the biggest part, became India, 1947 August. Then they split up the border and cut up about 1/5 of the country to create Pakistan. So this is Pakistan. Here is Pakistan's new capital, which is known as Islamabad up here. I put ISL for Islamabad. Here is another very crowded and big city called Lahore. And here is New Delhi, which is the Indian capital. And their distance is probably not more than 200, 300 miles, something like that. Very close to each other. And then on the eastern side, so this was called West Pakistan. And believe it or not, they created the second half of the same country that they called East Pakistan, which was about 2,500 miles away. So this became East Pakistan. In 1971, East Pakistani people, who were Bengali people, are Bengali people, just like me, we got partitioned. Bengal, one of the most prosperous places in India, was Bengal. That was partitioned by the British into two parts. One was called West Bengal, the other was called East Bengal. Then it became East Pakistan when the British left. And then West Pakistan and East Pakistan, as I said, were 2,500 miles apart from each other. And then people in East Pakistan, they started fighting with the people in West Pakistan because they always thought that they were being taken advantage of and their language is being destroyed, so on and so forth. So there was a huge language movement in 1952 in East Bengal, East Pakistan, and slowly it turned into their own independence movement. And in 1971, there was a very brutal 10-month-long war between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, and then it became separated, got its independence after a very, very bloody war where some 10 million people died. And then from that point on, it became known as Bangladesh. So now it is a separate independent country, which I talked about because now it is going through a very serious series of events and turmoil of its own. So that is a history in short. And the other thing is that when India becomes independent, along with the creation of Pakistan, the British left this part of the country, the subcontinent, in a deep mess. That is known as Kashmir. So I don't want to go through all the, the developments and the different series of events in Kashmir since 1947, but basically it has been left in a political and economic quagmire, so to speak, with no solution really tangible. And then there was a lot of poverty and economic distress, and Muslims and Hindus, they fought with each other. And India and Pakistan fought 3 different wars since 1947, basically over the issue of Kashmir. 1947, right after the independence, then in 1965, and then in 1971, over the issue of Bangladesh, when the independence movement was going on. These are like major conflicts, major wars, if you can classify them that way. I don't know how you can classify them. Maybe how many people died or how long it went on. I don't know. horrible. But then on top of that, there have been many other minor conflicts where hundreds of people have died and people's lives were ruined. They got displaced, property destroyed, all kinds of issues. And one of the main things that kept going was the terrorist insurgencies from the Pakistani side into India, which has been a major point of contention, reason for the conflict. There have been many instances where, like radical, violent groups created havoc in many different parts of India. And then India retaliated with armed forces, sometimes small, sometimes big. So this has been the history, unfortunate tragedy going on in the Indian subcontinent since 1947. So very recently, what happened, cut to the chase, so to speak, on the 22nd of April, just the day before I returned to New York, a group of people, terrorists, appeared in a very touristy, beautiful spot in Kashmir. Kashmir is really very, very beautiful. They call it paradise on earth. That's how beautiful it is. People are simple, very nice, Hindus and Muslims. They're ordinary people. They have no issues. They live peacefully. And it has always been one of the major tourist attractions, not just for people in India, but for people from all over the world. So suddenly, out of nowhere, a group of people showed up with guns and machine guns, submachine guns in their hands, and then started shooting indiscriminately at tourists and killed 26 people in a place called Pahalgam, which is right here, sort of here. And that was like an unbelievable thing. People were shocked. And immediately we knew that some type of major armed retaliation was coming. Now, the problem is that nobody really knows who did it because they were never caught. They were never apprehended. There was no serious investigation. And this has always been a major gripe for activists like us. We always demand an investigation before taking action against perceived enemies. Because many of us think that it has perhaps been done because of political expediency and to win votes and stay in power for the people in power. Because for the people in power in India and Pakistan, both are kind of like extreme far right kind of people. Pakistan, for one thing, has almost always been ruled by military regimes. Very little democracy is left in Pakistan. On a few instances where Pakistani people decided to go the democracy way and opted for voting and all that, it has always been very short-lived. A very popular prime minister in Pakistan, a woman named Benazir Bhutto, was blown up at a political rally. Her father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, was caught by a military general on sedition charges and hanged. And most recently, the prime minister who was elected a few years ago, his name is Imran Khan, a very well-known cricket player also, by the way, very popular. And he became the prime minister of Pakistan, and he is now in jail. And Pakistan went back to military rule. And almost always, these military juntas and rulers have been supported by the United States government and allegedly by CIA. So nobody really knows who is behind what. Back in 2019, just before a major national election in India, a similar terrorist attack happened in another part of Kashmir called Pulwama, where there is a strictest type of security all the time, 24/7, 365 days a year. But whether it was back in 2019 or this time on the 22nd of April, 2025, very strangely, on that particular day, in that particular area, there was zero security. And terrorists came and killed people indiscriminately. In this case, 26 tourists, innocent people, were gunned down, lost their lives. And back in 2019, just before the national election in India, where Modi was almost sure to lose, a terrorist attack happened, and 40 soldiers were blown up, Indian soldiers. And basically that created a huge ultra-patriotic sentiment across India, and Modi came back to power. So obviously something is happening, but if you ask me, do we have any proof? No, I don't have any proof. But we are educated people. We know what is going on all over the world. We know what's happening here in America and how far right is basically rising its ugly head in many different parts of the world. And India and Bangladesh and Pakistan are no exception, unfortunately. So India, long story short, waited for 2 weeks, and on the 6th of this month, in May, it started bombing various parts of Pakistan. They say that they're only targeting the terrorist camps, base camps in some targeted spots in Pakistan. But according to reports in BBC and New York Times and other media, innocent people have already lost their lives. And nobody really knows how long it's going to go on. That's number one. Nobody really knows how it is going to stop in the first place. Who is going to stop it? On what ground? And how many people will keep losing their lives? That's our first concern. The second concern is that both countries are nuclear powers. India became a nuclear power country way back in 1970s when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. It detonated its first nuclear bomb. Then Pakistan followed suit. Did not want to be much behind, because there is always this fierce competition between these two countries for all the wrong reasons. And then it became a nuclear nation in the 1990s. So that is one of the major concerns, that if it goes out of hand, then what's going to happen? Don't even want to think about it. By some estimates, if even small-scale nuclear war breaks out between these two countries, some experts say that some 2 billion people might lose lives, which we do not even want to think about. So it is a very alarming, scary situation. Back in 1999, something similar happened. It was a war called Kargil War, when the two countries came very close to a nuclear escalation. only to be stopped by people like Jimmy Carter and some others who had senses. So we are talking about a very major, scary, alarming possibility. And because of the war, both sides of the border, unbelievable hate and bigotry and violence on poor people, especially on Muslims in India, are taking place. Innocent people are being targeted for no crimes. Peaceful people, simple people, they are being targeted just because they are Muslims. And things are very, very scary at this point. So, first of all, I want to thank Brooklyn for Peace. It's an organization that I always look up to. It gives us, for people like us, to speak up, to voice our concerns. And it also gives us an opportunity to invite our friends and fellow soldiers and colleagues to do something about it. I hope, I don't know how much we can do at this point sitting here, or how much Brooklyn for Peace can do, because I'm sure that its plate is full with so many different issues in hand. But I also hope that we can find a way to do something, maybe to speak to some politicians in Washington so that they put immediate pressure on India and Pakistan to stop this barbaric war and killing of innocent people and targeting of innocent Muslims in India. And the same goes in Pakistan, or same goes in Bangladesh, where anti-Hindu violence has escalated in recent days. So basically, that is what I have to say. I don't want to prolong it too much. If you have any questions, then I'll try to answer as much as I can. I want to thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. And let's see if I can recognize people who've raised their hands for questions. So we have Mohammed is here. Okay, Mohammed, go ahead. You could
Okay.
unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Partha. This was a good review of the country or the history. I just want to ask you a question in relation to Kashmir. It has been, of course, left undecided over this decades until Modi unilaterally annexed Kashmir to what was then somewhat an autonomous state. Became, annexed by Modi. How much of that, not necessarily the terrorist attack, but what's the mood of the Kashmiris about this? And has this added to the tension between Pakistan and India to already existing hostility?
Yeah, that is a great question. And we really do not know, like the exact situation in Kashmir after. See, there was this, what Mohammed said, just to give you an overview. Kashmir always had a special status, an autonomous status, and it was ruled under a special act in the Indian Constitution called Article 370, which gave it, like an independent, semi-independent status. Their people could decide on their own fate with very little interference from India or Pakistan. But Modi came to power and they revoked that status and basically annexed Kashmir. And from that point on, I think there has been a huge backlash inside Kashmir, which Indian media never ever talks about. And one of the reasons they annexed it is that, well, actually, there are two reasons. One reason is that BJP, the ruling party of India, is run by a fascist organization called RSS. And that organization has always been a follower of Hitler and Mussolini. That has been their history. They were established exactly 100 years ago in 1925. And starting from their very inception, they have always been ardent followers of fascism and Nazism. And they have always envisioned the subcontinent of India to be a larger, undivided India. They called it Akhand Bharat. Bharat is the Sanskrit for India. Akhand is undivided. So basically, they have had always this plan of politically or economically annexing Pakistan and Bangladesh. And they believe in a Hindu India. So India is only for Hindus. Everybody else is either an outsider, they can be kicked out, or they have to be there as second-class, third-class citizens. So this has always been a game plan for them. And I know RSS a little bit more than many others because, believe it or not, I was with them for a very long time before I left, once and for all, and started writing books about them, an insider's point of view. So this has always been one of their modus operandi. And the second thing is that just like here, Elon Musk and Bezos and Bill Gates and all these super rich people are pulling the strings. There are some super rich, ultra rich people. Two of them are called Adani and Ambani, very close associates of Modi. Basically, they're trying to use Kashmir and its super pristine environment to build their own resorts, privatized places for tourism owned by Adani and Ambani. And Modi government is basically working sort of as trustees for these super rich people. So these are the two primary reasons. It has nothing to do with the economic upliftment of the poor people of Kashmir. They have always been poor, extremely poor. The only reason they have done it is to hand it over, the real estate, to some of the super rich billionaires of India.
Are there other questions? Maybe I'll ask, do the Kashmiris have a different ethnicity or like what is kind of unique to Kashmir?
Yeah, Kashmir is, see, this is Kashmir, this area.
What is that POK that you have there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not explain that. POK stands for Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. So in 1965 war, since that point on, because of the hostilities, Pakistan actually captured this part of Kashmir, which got severed from the rest of the state. And now it is called Pakistani Occupied Kashmir, actually to settle down the matters as much as possible. The Indira Gandhi administration in 1974 drew up a treaty with the Pakistani government that is known as the Shimla Treaty. And India has basically given up that area to Pakistan, and now this is known as the line of control between the two countries. So that is what it is. And this part, this is called Aksai Chin. This was annexed by China in 1962. And Kashmir is very unique because, number one, its strategic point, which is situated, as you can see, on 3 different countries' borders. One is India, one is China, one is Pakistan, and believe it or not, here is Russia. Russia means old Soviet Union, Tajikistan and Kazakhstan and those places. It's a very, very strategically important place. So that is one uniqueness of it. And the second uniqueness is that Kashmir, unlike the rest of India, Kashmir is mostly Muslim. So Kashmir is divided into 2 sections. One, the upper northern side and northwestern side is known as Kashmir. And this part, the southern side, is called Jammu, which is mostly Hindu. So Kashmir, if you can divide ethnically, it's 75% Muslim, maybe 70% Muslim and 30% Hindu. So that also makes it very unique. And it has a very close tie with Pakistani people, sharing the same border and everything. And the food and the culture, the lifestyle, very, very similar between the 2 countries. It used to be the same country before 1947 for thousands of years, until the British came and partitioned it.
I think Hugh McGuire has a question. So Hugh, go ahead. But can you unmute?
I'm sorry. There, can you hear me?
Yes.
I understand that under British rule in India, that the British made the Muslims the administrators, the Muslim minority, the administrators over the Hindu majority. And that was the beginning of the hostility and the hatred, actually, between the Muslims and the Hindus. Is that true?
Yeah, basically, before the British came, India had a very long Muslim rule for hundreds of years. But even during those hundreds of years, India never ever saw this type of Hindu-Muslim hatred ever. People lived sort of peacefully. But the British came and they created like a strategy to keep the Hindus and Muslims divided, and they started hating each other. And they planted, we call it the poison tree. They planted the poison tree, and then the hatred became so enormous and so violent that basically people started killing each other. And then they used that scenario to divide India along the religious lines. This part being one of the predominantly Muslim part, and this is also predominantly a Muslim part. They divided the country in 3 different regions along the religious lines, which was completely arbitrary. And it was done in such a manner. One of my previous talks, I explained that in some of the areas where the border happened, the partition happened in a way. My wife Mukti is also here. Her family actually came from Dhaka to Kolkata as refugees. They became refugees overnight. And the border was created in such an arbitrary way that literally there are many houses where the living room would be on the Indian side and the kitchen on the Pakistani side.
So given this history, it seems to me that it makes a peaceful resolution almost impossible.
Yeah, it is. Now it seems to be impossible, but it was not even meant to be done that way. There could have been many different ways to do it, but they went the shortcut way. Yeah. Because the British were bankrupt after World War II, and they were trying to find a way to leave India. Yeah. And they were being pressured by Gandhi on one hand and Indian revolutionaries on the other hand, and they had no way but to leave. But before they left, they created this permanent mess.
Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu. They thought that his support for the Muslims was a betrayal.
Yeah, but and then, believe it or not, the people who are ruling India right now, one of their men actually killed Gandhi.
Really?
Yeah. One of their party men killed Gandhi.
Yeah. Do you think this will explode into a nuclear war? It seems that both sides, Pakistan and India, have to be afraid of a nuclear confrontation. They're
Well,
crazy
you
not to.
know what? I mean, I do not even want to think about it, like I said before.
Yeah.
And I hope it does not happen that way. It does not go out of hand. But, uh, you know, given the circumstances and given the kind of people ruling both countries, you know what? My fingers are crossed.
The other thing is that Pakistan has always had military rule, going back to Ayub Khan.
Yes.
And it seems that when the military was in charge, Pakistan was more prosperous and government worked better.
That yeah, I mean the government worked better in terms of the political stability because there was no opposition.
India also has a very sophisticated military.
Ted wants to speak.
And so my suspicion is that they're not likely to want to commit mutual suicide.
Yeah, I mean, like in my personal opinion, Kashmir is almost like, the Kashmir situation is almost like the situation in Palestine.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, they keep it that way so that there is always, like they can reap some political benefits out of the mess. So they do not even want to solve the issue.
Yeah.
They will keep it a mess for the rest of our lives. And that is really something, like the international community and people like us, however little power we have, we need to think about like a long-term permanent solution of this mess. Because otherwise, like when I was born, this situation was just like this. And when I'm like almost 70 years old, the situation is still like that, even worse.
Yeah.
So where is that going to go?
What is China's role in this?
Yeah.
There is one question in the chat again. Maybe you can go over this again from Elaine Matthews. Was Kashmir initially set apart from East and West Pakistan and the rest of India in 1947? And why was that done?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, yeah, that's very true. It was actually left as it is at the time of the 1947 Pakistan partition. And then basically some say that it was taken over by India against the will of the ordinary people of Pakistan, ordinary people of Kashmir, so to speak. So it was meant to be a separate entity, but it was not left like that for too long. I think in 1947, when India was partitioned, even within 1 year, right after Gandhi was assassinated in January of 1948, they were, like there was a question, there was talk about a plebiscite in Kashmir, where people would be invited to vote, and that vote never really took place. But then the Kashmiri people formed their own political party, which was called a National Conference. It is still very much in power in Kashmir. A national conference, time and time again, whenever there was a democratic election, they won by overwhelming majority. And they wanted Kashmir to be keeping its Article 370 autonomous status. And that was honored by the Congress government, by Indira Gandhi, by Jawaharlal Nehru, and all the subsequent Congress governments. But this is the first time when this far right-wing BJP took over under Modi, they revoked that status.
Anne, do you have a question?
I was wondering if there's any movement for peace in India, or if any demonstrations or articles or if any of the left political parties are organizing for peace.
Well, of course, there are peace movements in India, but right now, the political parties, almost all of them, except for some very small fringe parties, they have joined the chorus against Pakistan. So there is no organized resistance at this moment. And on top of that, media and social media propaganda is unbelievable. You can't even say a word against the war.
Mohammed, do you have another question?
I have, but I think Ted has been raising his hands for quite a while. Maybe I'll follow
I,
that.
I didn't see that. Okay, Ted, go ahead. But you need to unmute, Ted. Could you unmute, please?
There is also a very important question. What is China's role in this?
Mhm.
Uh,
That is a
Ted,
very
we can't hear you. We still can't hear you. Can you unmute? I can't unmute you. You need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead. Good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I was just going to ask more or less the same question that was just asked, but I'd maybe like you to a little elaborate or expand. As the question is whether any movements of cross-religious religions that have any influence that you think can have influence, that you think can change the notions of this religious conflict into a political or class conflict.
well. As much as I would want to be, like.
I want the truth. Sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, as much as I want to be an optimist, uh, right now, the way the situation stands, there is very little hope in terms of a cross-religious solidarity and anti-war movement. I don't see any. Like I said, there are some fringe groups, some leftist parties on the far left. They are trying to do something, but their voice is very marginal. They don't have much strength in India. But the mainstream leftist parties that still have some clout in many different parts of India, they have become very strangely pro-war. What can I say? So there goes my hope about leftist parties in India. I have always had a lot of skepticism about them in the first place. But
Yes.
there are some individuals, well-known individuals, known to the international world, like Arundhati Roy and some other people. They have been very strongly vocal against this war. And some of the most important celebrities turned activists, they have also taken a strong position against the war. But the government does not want to pay any attention to them at all.
Thank you.
Mohammed, can you go ahead and then we'll get to Mary
Yeah,
Bukwa when she comes back. Go ahead.
I just want to pursue the religious hostility that seems to characterize the current situation, because although the British injected this idea of Muslim Hindu and separated arbitrarily the two countries, during the Congress rule, under Nehru and subsequent, there was at least there was secularity to the Indian government.
Yes.
And India, in a way, was also secular under its military at least. Like Ayub Khan, not the literal military, not the, not what's his name, Al-Haq, somebody. That they injected military, they brought religious aspect into the governance. But it's the governments like Modi now who really are fanning the flame of religious hostility. The people themselves will reconcile. I mean, the question was asked, can there ever be a solution? There can be a solution. But you have these corrupt politicians who, for their own purposes, really just inflame the situation, playing the religious card. And Modi is the arch typical, leader like that. So the question was asked: is there grassroots? I mean, you mentioned, you answered it already. It's like you're skeptical, but at least at the grassroots level, at the communal level, Muslim Hindu cooperation, collaboration on certain things, local. Do you see that anywhere?
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely from, like if you do not talk about the war right now, then of course there are many rays of hope that I have seen. Rahul Gandhi has become a very strong voice for peace and equality and secularism. So I have a lot of hope for him. I actually work with Overseas Congress of India here in America. I'm in touch with them. They are working. Rahul Gandhi has organized massive rallies all over India and marches, drawing millions and millions of people who are against hatred and bigotry and violence and war. So it is not that India does not have a very strong secular voice anymore. It does. But every time power slips out of their hand, or there is a possibility of power slipping out of their hands, they bring up some type of incident of terrorism, and which is followed up by an armed conflict to basically bring people back into their fold of far right-wing ultra-nationalism and patriotism, and that basically pushes back the advances that the secular people had made over the years. So that is really a recurring thing that's happening in India since this Modi government took over in 2014. But in 2024, when I was in India for 5 months, traveling and speaking at different parts of India against hate and bigotry and violence, a place called Uttar Pradesh, the northern province, which is like the largest province in India, like California, here in the United States, they built a huge Hindu temple, hoping that that would cash in their votes. But even after spending billions of dollars to build that temple, they were completely trounced in that state only.
There you go.
And the poor people, the Dalits, the lower caste people, and Muslims, they all came together and defeated Modi's party in that very state. So that was like a huge victory, even though we could not stop Modi from coming back to power, but Modi's party did not get an absolute majority anymore in 2024 national election. They were a minority single majority party, but they were not absolute majority party. So they had to get help from some other smaller parties to form the government. So that tells me right there that there is a huge ray of hope. And I'm still very optimistic that when this war situation, this drumbeat and this zealots stop screaming, people will come back to their senses and build a resistance against the forces of fascism. That is my hope, and that is my grassroots experience being in India for a long time.
Mary, do you want to have a question? Can you unmute yourself? And then Laura Castro after Mary.
No, I was trying to lower that. I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. No, thank you.
Just one quick.
Okay, Laura Castro.
Thank you very much. I heard somebody ask something about, say, China. Does China have any influence or is pressuring or taking a side or something like that? And I also sort of wonder about our own country and thinking about Brooklyn for Peace and you know, if part of our mission is to educate and, you know, and influence people to perhaps call on our representatives to do something, what influence might the US have? And I don't just mean, you know, just our foreign policy, but also our economic policy, et cetera. Are there ways that we're pressuring this situation and influencing it?
Yeah. I mean, that is a $1 million question. What can we really do, and how much can we do, given that we have far right-wing people in power in our country right here? So and Modi and Trump, they, you know, basically, you know, for the lack of a better term, they go to bed together. So I do not really have much hope from them as far as Trump administration is concerned. But because India is the largest open market for the American corporations, the American corporations have their own stake to stop the war, because their business will fail if the war goes on for too long. So that is the angle that we need to take. I mean, it's almost like rather than talking to Trump's people, we can talk to people such as Bill Gates, who has a very close tie with Modi.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So that is like, you know, my 2 cents. Like, if we really have to do something, we need to go the economic way and not the political way, because Trump wouldn't care if this war goes on and on, because, you know, they sell their biggest amount of arms to India and Pakistan, you know, in the first place. I mean, these two countries are fighting for each other for the longest period of time. Both of them, before they used some British arms and French arms, now they're using American arms more and more.
Thank you.
Mhm. Can I just?
Mohammed, yeah, go ahead.
I think the question was asked, and what can we do? Maybe if there are no more questions, I would, first of all, the least we can do as Brooklyn for Peace is put out a statement on this issue. And second one, if there is a way to reach out to certain, people in Congress to just highlight the problem and its implication for the global peace, because it's really a global peace issue. If it's actually nuclear threat, so maybe Brooklyn for Peace can perhaps start writing letters or ask for support from other groups, because I think it's a very important issue. It's about nuclear war, possibility of nuclear war in real terms, because these two countries would really, if pushed, to the corner, might end up using, one of them might end up using it. So it's scary prospects.
Laura, did you want to speak again?
I just wondered how one would go about finding out which corporate entities in the United States, and they're probably multinationals anyway, have the biggest stake in Pakistan and India. And because that would, or even if nobody here knows, then where would we find out? Because this information must be there someplace.
Yeah. Well, there are many different human rights organizations. They have done sort of like position papers on the Indian subcontinent in the past. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Oxfam, Pew, all these are some of the names that come to my mind, and they all have had their research done on the situation in India. Even you can go to CIA's website. They have very long and extensive discussion on India and Pakistan. I mean, like honestly, if you want to know the history and the series of events developing in the subcontinent, CIA's website is one of the best sources I have discovered. So
Hugh,
there is no lack of information, and then I would be more than happy to work with you in the coming days. If you need some specific information, I can look it up and send it over.
I'm going to call on Hugh next, but before we get to that, I am wondering and hoping if there are at least one or two people who are, with us now who could take on the challenge of drafting up a statement that we could issue. I think if we have something in writing that we can, share and come to some, agreement about, we could put out a statement, but I think it needs at least one or two people who can start to put it together. So hopefully before we conclude, we'll have at least one or two people who will volunteer to do that. Hugh, do you want to go ahead? And then Anne.
Thanks. There's China, there's Japan, and there's at least South Korea, if not North Korea as well, who would be devastated if a nuclear war occurs. And it seems to me that they should have a huge influence over both Pakistan and India.
Yeah, and I forgot to answer one quick question, but very important question. China has always meddled. China has always allied with Pakistan. And even today in this conflict, China has taken the Pakistani side, and India, with all its strong foreign policies, has made all the neighboring countries hostile. So when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister, or Dr. Manmohan Singh was the prime minister, India had a very good relationship with Sri Lanka, which is right up here. If you can see the map. Here is Sri Lanka, and Nepal, and all the other countries, Bangladesh, and all the neighboring countries, Myanmar. And now, because of Modi and his policies, basically all the neighboring countries have turned hostile against India. And China is basically fishing in troubled waters.
Modi is the Donald Trump of India.
Exactly.
He makes his decisions intuitively rather than.
Yeah, and very, very dictatorial, and the media have made him like God. No questions asked, blind support. So all the elements of fascism are there.
Yeah.
Anne, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, like similar to what Laura was raising about which U.S. corporations have the biggest stake. I'd like to have more information about arms sales to both India and Pakistan, because I think if we write an article, we need to, J.D. Vance came out with a statement that this conflict has nothing to do with us, we're not involved, as if the U.S. had no interest in it. And you automatically know that that's a lie. But in order to write an article, we need facts. So I'm wondering what institute would be a good source of information about, arms sales to both. Why do we not care? Because we're busy making billions of dollars selling arms to both. So
that's right.
Let them continue. And we all know that Trump is off the wall when it comes to like the possibility of nuclear war. He thinks you can just hide under your desk, right? So where can we get the facts that we need to write a good article?
One thing I can do is that whoever, whether it's Hugh or somebody else, is doing up the draft, if you can send me the draft with some asks in terms of sources of information, I can look them up and send it back to you, and you can fill in the gap if that helps.
Yeah, that would be great. So unless there are any more questions or comments.
Thank you so much. It's very informative. It's really frightening. People don't realize how scary it is.
I'd like to join a group that wants to write a paper on this. I can't exactly volunteer to write a first draft. I really don't know that. My knowledge of the history of this has faded with age, but I'd be happy to participate in a group that wants to work on this.
Great. So who else? I think we need both a draft of like a shorter statement and then a longer article, to back it up. But I think a statement doesn't need to be overly long. But Hugh, will put you down as somebody who work with other people. And Nomi, is your hand up? Do you want to
Yes.
speak?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really, really proud of Partha because there are very few people who are working and thinking like this in Pakistan and India. So I appreciate his perspective. I have not seen anybody who is anti-war in Pakistan right now. There's so much jingoism going on, and it's so unfortunate. And I think about. I mean, India has produced some of the greatest yogis and saints, Yogananda, Vivekananda, whom I love, Shri Aurobindo. And what I have seen is that there is a lot of propaganda in both countries, and parenting is involved. See, like President Eisenhower said, that when mothers will realize that every child born on the planet has the same rights as her child, there will be world peace. But right now, parenting in both countries is very tribal, is very nationalistic, and when armies on both sides, the militaries on both sides, they are taking advantage of this brainwashing that they have done to the people, and so now when you see child is called the father of man, because right now all these they are adults now, and they want to support their armies. And just like American, support your troops, but they never think that there is a military industrial complex which is benefiting from all this war industry. And it's global. The G8 countries, the happiest countries in the world, Scandinavian countries, they are huge exporters of weapons to the developing countries. And all these developing countries are ruled by very corrupt politicians, very corrupt military generals. And that's why propaganda has to be, like Noam Chomsky said, this is spectacular achievements of propaganda in the world. So we have to do it through education and parenting. So I appreciate Partha's perspective. Thank you for inviting me, Partha.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
And would you please share your email address so that we can stay in touch with you afterwards? Nomi, if Partha can send us your email address, that would be great.
Yeah.
And Nina has shared an article from the Times that I'll send out with the recording to everybody who is here. So we still need the one or two people who are willing to work on drafting up a statement that could then be expanded. Mohammed, is that a thing that you could work on from your seat in Washington?
Too far from New York. Well, I don't know if I can draft the first, but maybe I'll start looking into the subjects and maybe come up with something in the next few days.
Okay.
It has to be done. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but it has to be done on an urgent basis, like a short statement done in a couple of days, because we don't want to wait for too long.
Mm.
A short statement addressed to whom? I mean, who are we addressing it to?
That is something that maybe, Charlotte, you can decide. Maybe to our people first, and then to a bigger group of people and politicians with a larger statement. If that works.
The statement is for general public.
Is there like a congressional committee, who is like supposedly keeping track of things. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could look up who the actual, congressional people who are supposed to be monitoring the situation or might have some voice to say in it.
Well,
There is one Congresswoman, Pramila Jayapal from Washington, who is an Indian origin woman, and she is one of the most forefront progressive leaders, working closely with Ilhan Omar and AOC and these people. So she, if there is a way to reach out to her, that probably would be a good step also in the right direction.
I think it would be a
I-
big error for the United States to stick its nose into this. This is a problem that is a regional problem, and China and South Korea and Japan and those are the countries that need to focus on this. And if there's going to be a solution of any kind, it's got to start with them.
Yeah.
Has Jaypal said anything about this issue, Partha?
I have not really kept in that close touch with her recently.
Yeah.
I mean, since I came back from India, I mean, I was basically
Yeah.
recovering from jet lag, and suddenly I was hit with this bomb.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has paid attention to this because as preoccupied correctly as we are with the Gaza genocide, I think all these other issues are in the back burner. But this particular one, India-Pakistan conflict, is really something that should be of everybody's concern. Yeah.
Okay, so Mohammed, if you can draft something up short and share it, then we can, all try to come to some sense about what we can say in a brief way, and then maybe Hugh can work on doing more research and so forth to expand it in something longer that could be used as well for educational purposes, etc. But Laura, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't feel at all that I have the knowledge to, to write a statement on this. But one of the things that I would be willing to do and I think it's something we can do, that's, not as direct, but if we were to, we do our tabling whenever we do it, which is going to probably pick up more. And I would be willing to work on working this issue into our flyer. Finding once we have a statement, once we know what we're thinking, how to work it in so that it becomes an issue that as we hand out stuff to people on the street on the weekends, that this is in it.
Will you send out everybody's email address so that I could write up I could attempt a piece and I could shoot it to Partha and we could write a collective piece with everybody.
Sure. I would be very happy to be a part of any process. I just do not want to start the first draft.
I understand. Sure.
Okay, well, I will share the email addresses of everyone who has signed in today. So if you don't want to be part of this email group, just let me know. But otherwise, I'll share all these email addresses in a message probably tomorrow or maybe Sunday, along with the recording. So you can just take it from there.
Thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you for putting it together.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for coming, and let's hope for the best. And thank you, Partha, for really sharing your concerns and
thanks for doing it
and your knowledge with us, because I think we all have a lot to learn. So we really appreciate it. Okay, I think we've got everything. Noe, thank you for your email address. Appreciate that as well. So
Thank you. I look forward to the message from Brooklyn Peace.
Okay, well, we'll put you onto your list. You'll be getting other messages as well. So
that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay.
Partha, we should get together for dinner sometime. So I look forward to it.
Anytime, brother.
I will get in touch with you because you were in
Yeah.
India. So yeah, let's do that.
I know. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you so
sure.
much, and my love to all your friends. You're doing wonderful work, and to Mukti ji, your wife. So I will hope to see all of you together with my wife.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay, stay safe.
Thank you.
Yep.